up, guys? Team Snap West, Discraft Underground Captain Alex. Alex, how you holding up?
I'm pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Good. We're excited this evening to bring you guys a new person to our Underground Interview channel. We've got Ken Tyburski.
Wonderful.
I'm here.
Wonderful.
Awesome to be here.
Sweet.
After all the other videos you guys have done, I've been really excited to make the show.
Yeah, I know that you've reached out a couple of times, and so we are super pumped to get you in and kind of have an opening in our schedule. It's always so busy trying to fit these videos in, so we're pumped to have you. So thank you a ton for joining us. We kind of want to start out with our generic first question, and tell us how you got into disc golf.
It's kind of a three-part story. So I played twice before I really started playing. I played way back in the mid-'90s. I think it was probably 1995. Went to visit a friend of mine who was in college at East Carolina University, Greenville, North Carolina. And, we were just having a good time hanging out on a weekend. It was over a summer when he had summer school. And he said, "Hey, we're getting up tomorrow morning. We're playing Frisbee golf." And I said, I know what Frisbees are. I know what golf is, but I never thought, putting them together. Yeah. And I remember going out and playing the old ECU course. It was pretty iconic. It has some really great holes in it. It is since defunct. But I remember having a great time. But the internet wasn't really around then. So I didn't really think elsewhere. Fast forward about 10 years, and I played with my brother and a couple of his friends in one of the local parks near where I grew up. And then about 2 years after that, probably 2008, I took it up in earnest. One of my colleagues at the school where I was teaching was throwing some discs around in his backyard. And I said, "Those don't look like regular Frisbees." He said, "No, they're disc golf discs. I played when I was in college." To Dick's Sporting Goods the next day, found my closest course, and the rest is history, really. I've enjoyed it ever since. It's awesome.
Wow.
Nice. So this is a question we don't ask a ton of our guys, but you're one of the Team Discraft guys who is not a full-time touring player, but you still hit a ton of big events and still get a ton of tournaments in throughout the year. Tell us a little bit about what you do off the course.
Okay, so I'm a high school math teacher. I teach at a private all-boys boarding school here in Western North Carolina. And I'm really grateful because, number one, about 2 years before I started working here, this is my third year here, the administration decided they have a huge outdoor program here. Western North Carolina is famous for skiing, waterfalls, biking, kayaking, whatever you name it. They decided to introduce disc golf into the outdoor program that we have. Nice. So they built a course on campus. There's a 9-hole course on our campus. And so when a position came open, I reached out to them. They reached out to me. It was a match made in heaven. Very exciting to be here. So I'm really grateful to them for allowing me the freedom to do what I really enjoy outside the classroom. And I get it too. It's really exciting.
Does the math come into your disc golf game a little bit when you're looking at some percentages for shots?
I think about it. I'm always thinking about distances, of course. I'm kind of playing the percentages on for me. I'm primarily a backhand player, so I'm kind of picking out is it a good time to throw the forehand because I'm not as confident in it, maybe. So I'm usually thinking about things like that. And of course, I'm to put disc golf related problems on my math test, especially in geometry.
Nice.
It's awesome. The kids don't get tired of asking me about it either, which is really cool. I mean, this is 13 to 19-year-old teenage boys. It's very exciting to kind of get them excited about, because they could be the future of the game. I always tell them, nothing would make me prouder than to start teaching an 8th grader to play disc golf, and then he can kick my butt by the time he graduates. Nothing would make me happier.
That's wild. That's so cool.
Yeah, they'd have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and it seems that we do across the sport. We do have a few high school teachers. I think is it Joe Revere out in Colorado, and then I think there's another pretty big name in Washington that's also a high school teacher. It's apparently Dan Hastings, Team Discraft. Dan Hastings was a middle school teacher.
Yeah,
and now he's doing a different role. He's not. I don't know if he's teaching in the classroom right now, but. Yeah, he was like a North Carolina Teacher of the Year or something. He's been a teacher for a while. there's an education piece, that that I think that there's a draw for it. You, as someone who's an educator, you don't just want to do it, you want to share it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it. There's a draw to it. There's a good mix, a good meld there.
That's wild.
Nice.
Well, okay, so we're gonna kind of turn back the Wayback Machine. Do you remember what your first PDGA tournament was?
Yes, absolutely.
What was it?
Yeah, I played in the it was the New Year Classic, I think it was called. It was on New Year's Day 2011. Wow. I joined the PDGA on October 2010. And my first event was 2011. It was it was a New Year's kickoff. It was at Cedar Rock Park in Burlington, North Carolina.
That's awesome.
And I competed in. I remember so many things about it. I competed at intermediate. Along with here's again great connections. One of my card mates, I think, for one of the 2 rounds was Team Discraft's own Philip Bartholomew.
Hey, Philip B.
Also played in that tournament. I finished 10th out of like 20 guys in intermediate. My average round rating for that day was like 885 or something like that.
This is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember it. Yeah, I do. I remember it.
So looking back to that time, you said you had a rating, average rating around 885, and then August 2018 you cracked 4 digits, right? What advice would you give 2011 Ken?
Wow. Thinking back that far, that's a great question. I don't think I would have done it any other way, in all honesty. I think if I could, if I wasn't really paying attention. I don't watch a lot of like instructional videos unless I'm watching them as maybe something that I can share with my students. Mm-hmm. So the big thing probably would just be to make sure you work on all parts of your game. I was a terrible putter at first. I coming maybe from when I was maybe 6th or 7th grade, I started going to these summer programs, the nerd camps or whatever for 2 or 3 weeks at whatever. And the big thing to do in the afternoons was play ultimate. So I've been throwing frisbees for a long time. I'm in my 40s now. I started playing disc golf when I was about 35, but since from age 13, I've been chucking around lids. So, the big thing when I turned pro in 2014 was I really, really developed a forehand game as best I could because I didn't. So it may be just to, maybe don't be a one-trick pony. Try to work on all parts of your game that are going to help you to be successful.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the only advice I would have given myself.
That's awesome. So, kind of thinking back to just the area. So Brian Earhart and JC Kester both brought up how much talent there is in North Carolina and kind of that southeastern area, right? But more specifically, North Carolina. Looking back to the 2011 tournament, you had like Jeremy Colling was in the tournament, Schwebby and MJ was there. How does having all that tournament or having all that talent just like, I don't know, what's it like to have all that talent just in that location across those years?
Well, I didn't know until, I've been playing with Schwebby for, against him for the past 4 or 5 years that I've been in the Master. And it's amazing to think that like that guy has more tournament experience than anyone else. He's played almost 700 tournaments. He's won like 260 events in his lifetime. And to watch what he does, I wish I'd have been able to see that early on. I was playing an intermediate. I wasn't watching him do his thing.
Yeah.
So pick up stuff from him lately and kind of watching how he approaches the game, not only from a skill standpoint, but he's just an all-around great guy. He's one of my favorite guys to play with. But I think it pushes everyone to want to be a better player, or to say that I didn't really know who Jerm Colling was back then. I remember a tournament back in my first 6 months of playing. I think at that same course, David Wiggins was there, and I think he had just broken the distance record or was on pace to do so. And it's just like this, whoa, crazy! Look at this guy.
Yeah.
But then they're also humble. They're also humble, and they're great. They're great people, and I think that's more of what I get out of them now. Back then, it was like, who is this disc golf god who's just so awesome? But now you get to see them as a person, and it really kind of inspires you to not only be a better player, but a better ambassador, if you will, of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think that's
cool.
something Terry Miller has, I think, touched on in one of his podcasts too, is that disc golf is still kind of in this this phase where you still have pretty close access to some of the legends of the game, like Schwebe and MJ, and
Absolutely.
even at tournaments, you can still go talk to the big players when they get off the course, not during the rounds, of course, but when they're done with their rounds, the players are still hanging around, willing to sign autographs, and you just don't get that in like the major sports. So it's really kind of a, sort of just a really nice period of disc golf, because I'm sure as the game continues to grow, maybe 5, 10, 20 years down the road, these guys might be bigger stars and have bigger things to do. But it's so cool to have that really close access to still get to know these top guys and actually talk to them and get to know them as people a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's a funny memory that you mentioned that, like, and it happens to everybody. Back, I think maybe 2015. So I won Amateur Masters Worlds in 2014, and sometime later on that year, early 2015, I was playing at kind of a pitch and putt course, Horizons Park, in outside of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I think it's the oldest disc golf course in North Carolina. But a 7 or 8 year old kid who was playing in the tournament as a junior came up and asked me to sign his disc. He knew who I was. And I was like, this is the coolest experience ever. Like, I just got to sign my name on this kid's disc because North Carolina, he's heard of me, he knows who I am. And I wasn't even a sponsored guy at this time. I'm just a local player who happened to be doing pretty well. And again, it's kind of a humbling thing, and to be able to take it up to that next level. I went to a tournament a few years ago, and there was a lot of discs being auctioned off as a fundraiser, and there was a disc that I picked up in that auction that one guy owned that used to be Jerm Colling's Predator that he used to throw. He had his so I got him to sign the top of it because he was at that tournament. And it's just like neat things like that. You get these connections between people. I think you're exactly right. There's some accessibility that you can't get in other sports, and it's really awesome.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So kind of talking about you mentioned that you were a local pro and somebody knew your name.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of as you transitioned into the Masters division over the last couple years, right, the game of disc golf is I mean, those legends are now getting into the Masters. Like, you have somebody like Dave Feldberg and Johnny McRae and Michael Joe who can play in this Masters division. What's the difference, right? Like, between Open and Masters, what's the difference, and what's helped you personally excel in that field?
Well, my experience is a little bit different because someone like DJ, for example, Michael Johansson, just started playing Masters recently. When I started playing disc golf, I was 35 years old, and my first 5 years I played in the amateur divisions. I played some open events, but didn't take cash because I had set a goal for myself. After 2012 Worlds, which was in Charlotte, I played in the advanced division. I was probably, how old was I then? 37, 38 years old, and I finished top 20. And I said, hey, if I just stay in AM 2 more years, I can be in the Masters division, and I'm going to go win Worlds. And that's like the goal I set for myself, was to do that. And of course, I was honored and humbled to achieve that 2 years later in St. Paul, Minnesota. But I didn't really have a chunk of time when go from AM to pro and play a lot of open events before I got older, when I turned pro. So I've spent most of my time playing in the Masters division. But you're right. When I'm, almost every single big event that I've played, I have to play against Schwebe. I've had to play against Matt Peckham out of, who's been rated in the 990s for 12 to 15 years. play against Barry Schultz. You know, these guys are great. And again, like I mentioned earlier with Schweb, I mean, you can pick up some great things from them. You know, whether it's how you approach the game, whether it's you know, maybe a little rule tweaks that you didn't know about, courtesy things. You know, how to improve your mental game and your focus. You know, watching how Barry warms up and how he approaches. Of course, I mean, the guy's ridiculous.
Yeah,
You know, he's been doing this forever. Approaching
Yeah.
the game, it teaches you a lot. Just watching those guys. You know, a lot of people, you know, when you're in the amateur status, people call people, you know, like baggers or whatever for staying in intermediate. If you're an advanced player, not jumping up to pro. And I don't have a problem with that. Please stay if that's where you're comfortable. But it will benefit you to jump up every once in a while and learn from those other people. You know, I learned a lot from this summer at Masters Worlds. I got to play around with Johnny McRae, and just watching him do what he does was a learning experience for me. And you could have someone that's better than you.
That's wild. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Awesome. Well, we have our famous what our rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh, there's no dodging. There's no dodging.
Here we go.
All right, quick answers. We got 9 of them to fire at you this time, and we got a couple fun ones in there. So we'll start off with an easy one or two, and then we'll get into it. Cake or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Favorite genre of music?
Grunge.
Grunge. Would not have expected that one. The mustache says maybe like
alternative. Hey man, I'm a child of the. I was in high school in the early '90s.
All right,
that was it.
Fair enough. Most underrated Discraft disc in your opinion?
Oh, that's a great question. Underrated, probably. Man, you get Heat.
Heat. I like that.
I know a lot of people throw it, but I use it a lot.
Yeah, I think especially for slower and mid-arm speeds, it's phenomenal. And a little tailwind, that's probably the farthest flying disc in my bag, surprisingly, for being, you know, a 910 speed. It goes. Your favorite place that you've traveled to for disc golf?
Smuggler's Notch this past summer was awesome. Vermont was great.
Nice. Heard a lot of good things. The most important shot in the game, there's a lot of debate on this one. The tee shot, the up shot, or the putt?
I got to go with the putt.
Yeah.
I have to.
I feel like there's been I've heard some different opinions on this one recently, so I feel like it's a good question. Your favorite thing to do off the disc golf course that's not math related?
I'm a big craft beer fan. I live in Asheville.
Oh, nice.
So I love sampling the local fare.
Yeah, second I think to Grand Rapids the last couple of years. Not to Michigan brag, but
really.
No, you're good. You're good. I appreciate it. I respect
it. You get one mid, one fairway, one driver that you're taking to the toboggan. What are you bringing?
You said one mid, one fairway, one driver.
Yep.
Mid's got to be the Buzz. Fairway, probably Undertaker. And then if I'm going distance driver, I'm probably throwing Nuke.
Nice. I think the first two were JC's same too. I was curious if they would change it all. The player that you have never played with that you would like to play with the most?
Actually, we've already been talking about him. I don't think I've ever played a competitive round with Joe Hansen. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, you guys aren't far away.
No.
All right, and then our last one. I feel like this one might cause you some thought. What's more important, the mustache or the beard?
Oh, for me right now, it's definitely mustache.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can grow like a serviceable beard out like in a few weeks.
Yeah.
This is work right here. This is a long time process.
Are you a mustache oil kind of guy?
What?
There are people who have mustache oil, so you get oils that you can like actually.
Oh yeah, no. I didn't. I guess I didn't hear the. I guess I didn't hear you correctly. Yeah, I do have. I've got I should have brought it out. I should have my little can right. Some Tip Top pomade.
Nice.
That I got. So, well, Wes, you remember Wes? I visited with you over the summer, and the start of my beard was working out because I didn't shave all summer long. If you see me from later in the summer, for example, I think there was a picture of me at the Music City Open, and I didn't even recognize myself because it was so. The school, when we got back to school, our head of school here has a policy where the students cannot have facial hair. So I needed to trim it back and kind of clean it up so I look professional. But I decided to leave the mustache. Has been awesome. Everyone compliments me.
So cool.
It's a good talking point. It's a good conversation piece. I love doing it. It's fun.
That's wild. Well, anyway, thanks again for joining us, Ken. So we're gonna give you a moment to
You got it.
Thank anybody, shout anybody out. Just the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, number one, I think I already I thanked my school. Again, they give me some latitude to be able to go off and play disc golf tournaments on weekends. Obviously with the course here, they really want to support me and what I do and the benefit that they can have to our outdoor program and the kids. Got to thank Disc. It's been exciting to be a part of the team since 2016. And I'm looking forward to many more good years as long as I can keep traveling to tournaments and improving my game. I really got Western North Carolina. I got to thank all the people. There's some hardworking people. I'm sure that all of you out there who are listening or who are going to tune in, there are people in your local community who are doing awesome stuff. Do not forget to thank them. Have gratitude for the people who are working on your courses, who are bringing in people to do clinics, who are putting on tournaments, whether they're sanctioned or unsanctioned. People who are just promoting the game in positive ways. Have gratitude for your local folks.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thanks again.
You go.
Thanks again, Ken. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And at the end of the day, Wes, there's only one thing left to do, and that is
make that putt.
Nice.